Meanwhile, it seems Donald Trump is not letting go of his grievance with President Obama anytime soon. The president-elect tweeting earlier today, "Doing my best to disregard the many inflammatory President O statements and roadblocks. Thought it was going to be a smooth transition. Not." The comments come days after Trump initially lashed out on Twitter at President Obama after the president said he could beat Trump if he was allowed to run for a third term. Trump is just a few weeks away from taking office and is in the middle of filling out his cabinet. He has appointed cybersecurity expert Thomas Bossert as his next Homeland Security and Counterterrorism advisor as some of his latest appointments, along with Jason Greenblatt, one of Mr. Trump's lawyers. He will take the newly created job of Special Representative for International Negotiations. Aaron Blake, senior reporter for The Washington Post, is in the D.C. newsroom joining us now. Aaron, I feel like I should say the party's over, or at least it appears to be, after the latest couple of tweets from Donald Trump over the past 2 days. He and President Obama seem to be getting along. What should we make of all of this?
Well, it's a good reminder that any kind of goodwill, meeting of the minds and kumbaya moments with Donald Trump can be very temporary and can be dependent upon how he feels he's been treated. I think in this case, it's clearly a reaction to the interview that President Obama did, in which he suggested he could have defeated Donald Trump in the 2016 election. Anytime you go at Trump for his record of being a winner, you're liable to get some kind of a reaction. I also think it's perhaps a reaction in some ways to what we've seen with the United Nations and their actions with regard to abstaining from the Israel vote. So a lot of, there's been about a month and a half of really nice talk between the White House and the transition team. I think that may be on ice for now.
If it is, and as we move ahead, traditionally presidents, once they leave office, tend to be rather quiet and let the new president do their thing. Do we expect maybe that we might hear more from President Obama?
You know, it's unclear. He's been pretty measured in his own remarks. He's wanted to give Trump the benefit of the doubt. I do think, generally speaking, outgoing and former presidents will allow their successor to do their thing and not try to get too involved. I wouldn't be surprised if Obama goes a little bit further than that, goes a little bit further than maybe George W. Bush went with him. George W. Bush basically disappeared off the face of the earth after he left the presidency and let Obama do his own thing. So we shall see, but definitely protocol calls for the former president to let its successor do what they are going to do and let other people criticize it.
We heard some new appointments made by the Trump administration yesterday. One of them in particular, Thomas Bossert, who's a cybersecurity expert. Is that an indication that perhaps a President Trump may be ready to take a harder line against Russia?
You know, we get so many conflicting signals from a lot of these appointments. Obviously, it's hard to say that there's going to be a tougher position on Russia, given that Trump's Secretary of State pick is Rex Tillerson, the ExxonMobil CEO, who's taken a position against additional sanctions in Russia. It's hard to say that this is a specifically geared appointment in this case. I think, if anything, it's a good example of Trump kind of wanting to have a lot of different types of people in his administration. This is in particular one from the George W. Bush administration who will be working alongside Michael Flynn, who's been one of the more controversial picks of Trump's team so far. So maybe a little bit more balance is the message here.
And we mentioned the picks, his ambassador to Israel. We've talked about how that may shape Israeli-U.S. relations. And there were some Trump tweets today in regards to Israel saying we cannot continue to let Israel be treated with such total disdain and disrespect. They used to have a great friend in the U.S., but not anymore. The beginning of the end was the horrible Iran deal. And now this, meaning the UN. Stay strong, Israel. January 20th is fast approaching. I know you don't have ESP. I know you can't predict the future, but do we have any sense of how things may change in regards to Israel under a Trump presidency?
It's really hard to say for one very big reason, and that's that Trump hasn't had a specific Israel policy that he's followed throughout his campaign. If you look back, in fact, to early in his campaign, there were statements that were very supportive of kind of a two-state strategy, supportive of kind of, basically saying things that Israel would not be so comfortable with. On the other hand, though, he does seem to be surrounding himself with the kind of foreign policy minds that are more pro-Israel. He's obviously now gone down that road with his tweets. I think that he sees this as a good way to kind of fight back against the Iran deal that President Obama has put forward. And by emphasizing Israel first, I think that really fits in with some of the people he's surrounding himself with.
Yeah, you mentioned the foreign policy minds. We had the conversation earlier about, I guess the question is if he listens to those foreign policy minds. Aaron Blake in Washington, thank you for the time.
Thank you.